How could you say such things, mother? Chidi's voice thundered through the house, shaking the very foundation of their once loving bond. His eyes, usually filled with warmth for his mother, were now cold and accusing. His mother, Adaobi, stood still, heartbroken and confused, trying to hold back tears. Chidi, my son, I only wanted... No, you are trying to destroy my marriage. Just because I bought you a car doesn't mean you have the right to meddle in my life. Chidi shouted, his fist clenched. Adaobi's heart shattered. She had never seen her son speak to her this way. The air was thick with tension as Chidi turned his back on his mother, leaving her standing alone in the middle of the room. 6 years before, Amara's life had been filled with sorrow, married for years and yet childless. Her barrenness had become the talk of the village. Every time she walked through the marketplace, she felt the sharp stares of women whispering behind her back, mocking her inability to bear children. The odds ran deep, and every time her husband, Chidi, returned home from work, he found her weeping. Amara, my love, stop crying. Everything will be alright, he would say, cradling her gently. He believed in her, always reassuring her, but his words could only do so much to mend her broken spirit. Chidi's mother, Adaobi, however, had been less forgiving. My son needs a child, she often lashed out at Amara during her visits. What kind of woman are you that you cannot bear fruit? You are useless. Those words haunted Amara, eating away at her peace. But fortune smiled on her one day, and after 2 more years of suffering, she became pregnant. The news spread like wildfire, and the villagers, who once mocked her, now celebrated her. Even Adaobi, who had previously been harsh, couldn't hide her joy. When the day of delivery came, Amara gave birth to a healthy, bouncing baby boy named Obina. But just as happiness filled her heart, tragedy struck. On his way to pay the hospital bill, Chidi was hit by a car and killed instantly. The joy of her son's birth was overshadowed by the unbearable grief of losing her beloved husband. The news devastated Amara, but she stayed strong for her son. After a few days, when she was told of Chidi's death, her heart shattered. She wept bitterly, knowing she would never see him hold their child. The loss of her husband marked the beginning of Amara's struggle. Chidi's family, led by his mother Adaobi, believed the child was a curse, claiming that Obina's birth had caused their son's death. They refused to help Amara, leaving her to raise Obina alone. With no help from Chidi's family, Amara, a small-time trader, worked tirelessly to provide for her son. She used her small earnings to send him to school, and despite their hardships, Obina grew into a fine young man, obedient, intelligent, and full of promise. His success was the result of his mother's sacrifices. He completed his education with excellent results and even went on to become a doctor, securing a position in one of the biggest hospitals in the city. Obina's success brought wealth and stability to Amara's life. He renovated her house, cared for her, and even introduced his fiancée, Ineoma, to her. Amara was thrilled, welcoming Ineoma into their family with open arms. The wedding between Obina and Ineoma was the talk of the town, a grand event that solidified their status as a prosperous family. Things were peaceful until the day Obina decided to buy a car for his mother. When he told Ineoma about his plan, she was visibly upset, though she hid it from her husband. Deep down, she resented that Amara was receiving a car when she, Obina's wife, did not yet have one. How could he buy a car for that old woman? Ineoma thought to herself. Over time, her bitterness grew. Every time Obina gave his mother money, just as he gave her, Ineoma's resentment deepened. She felt like she was competing for her husband's affection. When Amara decided to spend a few weeks with the couple, Ineoma's plan to drive a wedge between mother and son began. Amara was excited to be with her son, but she quickly became the target of Ineoma's cruelty. Each morning, While Obinna left early for work, Nneoma would refuse to give Amara any food. "You think you can come here and take over my home? You should have stayed in your own house," Nneoma would sneer, while Amara, too kind to fight back, remained quiet. Nneoma made sure Amara had nothing to eat until the evening, just before Obinna would return from work. Then she would hurriedly give her food, ensuring that Obinna never suspected anything. When Amara tried to tell her son about the mistreatment, Obinna didn't believe her. He thought his mother was exaggerating, especially when he saw 2 plates of food at the table in the evenings. Nneoma's plan worked. Obinna, confused by his mother's complaints, began to grow distant from her. Then on the day Amara told him about Nneoma's insult, Obinna snapped, accusing his mother of trying to destroy his marriage. "You have done enough, mother. You need to go back to your house," Obinna shouted, his face red with anger. Adaobi, heartbroken, packed her things and left the next day. Nneoma watched with a smile, her mission accomplished. But Adaobi did not give up. She called Obinna often, but Nneoma, who always had her husband's phone, cut the calls and deleted the missed call notifications. Obinna began to believe his mother no longer cared about him. "She doesn't even call," Nneoma would tell him. Then one day, Adaobi fell gravely ill as her neighbors rushed her to the hospital. They called Obinna. Fortunately, this time, he had his phone. Hearing of his mother's condition, he rushed to the hospital, panic in his heart. When he arrived, his mother was weak but alive. As they spoke, Obinna mentioned how he had not heard from her in so long. Adaobi, weak but truthful, told him how she had called many times, but the calls were cut. It was at that moment that Obinna realized it was Nneoma who had been cutting the calls all along. The realization hit him like a ton of bricks. He recalled all the complaints his mother had made and understood that his wife had been manipulating him. With a heavy heart, he apologized to his mother, begging her for forgiveness. Obinna returned home with his mother, but things could never be the same. That night, he confronted Nneoma, asking her to pack her things and leave. "You tried to come between me and my mother. You were jealous of the love I have for her. That I cannot forgive." Nneoma, stunned and defensive, admitted to her jealousy. "I hated how you gave her everything, even a car, when I had nothing." Obinna's anger fled. "That's no excuse to treat my mother with cruelty. Leave and never return." With that, Nneoma was gone. Obinna, heartbroken and wiser, devoted himself to making amends with his mother. He vowed never to let anyone come between them again. So guys, this is how I'm going to be ending this video. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe and turn on the notification button so that you can be notified whenever I drop a new video like this. Thank you.